My name's Gracie, and I'm the producer, director, and co-writer of this documentary you are now seeing. I been It's been a long time that I've always wanted to do a documentary, and this was a good chance I had to do a documentary with some help I got with a lot of other people I have met over the years, and they have agreed to do it. What this documentary is all about is mental illness. And why I decided to do this is because myself, I also have mental illness. Like I have bipolar and I have ADHD. I also have a friend here with me who also has a similar problem as well, and I asked him for my help, for some help, and he agreed to help me out. His name is Shane Williams.
Well, as Lee was saying, he had a very deep and personal motive for wanting to make this documentary, and I think when he came to me and said, you know, he told me about the documentary, but he also said something that I didn't really expect, and he said, would you like to interview people? Now, as we've discussed, each of us sort of probably has a part of us that finds it, we're too harsh on ourselves, or we say we can't do this and we can't do that. And thankfully I agreed, because I really, really didn't realise how I would be, and I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be awful, this is going to be awful, and it ended up being a really excellent, educational experience for me. And I also think that it was a real eye-opener as far as the varied, people's stories varied, not just in their experiences, but actually what they suffer from themselves. I've dealt with depression, thought disorders, we might call it schizophrenia, but in some people call it schizoaffective disorder. But putting aside all those, terminologies for what people have, we all sort of share a common thread, and I think depression is probably something that has lingered in a lot of people's lives, so that was also something we tried to, bring out from these people, that, yes, we're different, but there seems to be this little, I can see where the dots join kind of thing. But getting back to my own personal experience with it, I think that it was very... yeah, it was moving in a way, because I knew some of these people already, but I didn't know enough about their own, I suppose, how they came to accept that they had something wrong with them in their life. But I also think what's brilliant about the whole process is seeing that there's a positive spin to all this. Is that, for all the bad things that these people have gone through, they've got little stories that they tell that's like, well, in the grand scheme of things turned out not so bad. So, and that helped me, because, yes, I might come across as, oh, he seems confident and this and that and the other, but, I have, a lot of times I don't even want to leave the house, and that people might think, wow, well, I don't think that of you, but it's a reality, and that's why I think it's important to get it out there to people that maybe have suffered from, probably not the same kind of illnesses that I've been speaking about, but you might have suffered from depression at some point in your life and felt as though, I feel so alone, I don't feel like I can talk to anyone about it, and it just goes to show that more often than not, if you're willing to talk to people, say, oh, my cousin suffered from that, or I've suffered from that, or, and you realise that it's not just you, it's not this little small group of the population, small segment of the population, it's actually a lot of people.
Thank you, Shane. And now we're going to start having these interviews now. Hope you enjoy them, and we'll speak some more about it after these interviews happen. Now, before I leave here, again, sorry, but that these interviews were done over 4 days. So, was it 4 days
Yep.
or 3 days?
No,
4 days.
4 days.
4 days. Just making sure. So we're going to split these up here and into different days. But we're not going to show all what we did, but we're going to let you know what day. There'll be on the bottom of the screen what day this will be. So it'll be day 1, day 2, and day 3. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll speak to you after these interviews. Thank you.
And much like yourselves, I've suffered from depression in the past and was subsequently diagnosed with schizophrenia. And today, what we're trying to do is just allow people to talk about their own experience with mental illness, and with a little focus on depression. Now, I myself was diagnosed with depression before I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and that's an interesting dynamic because people often think, well, it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So, I'll be asking you questions about your own experience. Hi, David. My name's Shane Williams. Now, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your particular, what you've been diagnosed as far as mental illness?
DID.
What was that, sorry?
DID.
DID?
Yeah.
And what's DID stand for?
Dissociative identity disorder, non-specific.
Okay. And how long ago were you diagnosed with that?
The definitive diagnosis was 1997.
1997?
Yeah.
And as far as getting that diagnosis, did you go to see a psychiatrist of your own volition, or did you at the urging of family members, or?
Well, I knew that there was something wrong for a very long period of time.
Yes.
But I just thought, okay, I'm crazy, that's it. There's nothing that can be done. I was more or less forced into it when I had a total physical, mental, and everything else collapse.
Mm-hmm.
First time I ended up in a psychiatric hospital, was, my God, what is this place? It was scary.
And how long were you in that facility for?
In St. Vincent's, the first time, 6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay. And they obviously determined after 6 weeks that you were okay to go home, or?
Well, at that stage I was separated from my ex-wife. I have very little contact with my family.
Yeah.
And I was living alone, basically.
Mm.
Aside from sort of contact with my daughter for access purposes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, you're stable. No, there's nothing more we can do. And they weren't quite sure what the diagnosis was at that stage. And it took about another year to finally come up with this label. I don't sort of think of it as a diagnosis so much as a label.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I think of it as a diagnosis, then I become that, and it becomes part of my identity, and that's not what I am.
So, as far as the diagnosis, because I'll admit I've heard of the terminology, but I've never actually really delved into it that deeply, and it's definitely something that's something I think a lot of people in the community would know very little about. And just one thing we've all touched on here is that no matter what our diagnosis has been, depression has played a part in it somewhere along the way. And so with yourself, did you find that the depression was brought on by a genuine external force, or do you feel that your depression was irrational?
It was partly situational, in that, okay, separated, going through a divorce, that was part of it. We'd been married 16 years at that stage, and to suddenly the whole thing sort of implode. It was just unbelievable. And partly I sort of think it was that I hadn't been getting much sleep for like about 5 months. When you're awake 120 hours a week, you're only sleeping sort of 2-3 hours a night, if you can get that.
Yes.
Then that was another sort of push along towards the depression. But I kind of think of the depression as a rabid wolf.
Yes.
For one of the better way of putting it. You know, when he bites.
Yes.
Then, you know.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's precisely what the biggest problem is with depression. Once it takes a hold of you, it's often not as simple as people saying, "Oh, you know, cheer up. You should do this. This will make you happy." And of course, in reality, it doesn't really work that way. So
no, it doesn't. I find what works for me is getting 1, sleep, preferably with no nightmares. 2, I practice a lot of meditation techniques, and that gets me out of it. And staying away from alcohol and various other substances, which I wasn't too particular about staying away from when I was younger, if I can put it that way. Yeah.
So would you say at the moment that you're in a better place now than you were, you know, back many years ago when you were first diagnosed? Or is it a daily thing that you have to struggle with?
Well, symptoms can get variable, right? When it's not better, it's easier. When it's easier, it may not be better.
Oh, okay. And what's a good example of that?
Losing track of time.
Okay.
Like losing half a day and sort of becoming aware, and I'm miles away from where I should be.
Yes. So it's definitely impacting on your life in more ways than one, because it's affecting you're not functioning in a way that's beneficial to your day-to-day existence when you're in that kind of frame of mind. Okay, so just on a more positive note, you mentioned meditation as being a positive influence. Now, do you have any hobbies or anything that you find that makes you feel much better about yourself?
Helping build mud brick houses, sailing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Being with my daughter.
So would you say she's obviously she's a positive influence, but has she been someone that you can turn to, if you're not feeling so crash hot?
No, look, she's only just turned 18.
Ah, okay, so she's fairly young, yeah.
Yeah, she does know, okay.
Yeah.
The label. She
yeah.
Was all the impact of
No, I think, but obviously just her being who she is something that's beneficial to you, and it makes you feel good. So it's no other particular hobbies or anything, or particular things do you enjoy? Do you enjoy seeing live music or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Diving, yeah.
I used to indulge in a lot of rifle shooting, but people sort of tend to try and put the psychiatric history if you've got high-powered rifles around,
Yes.
They're rather unsympathetic.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, David.
No.
All right, Steve. Now, I remember talking to you about having that balance in life where, as far as, okay, you've got a mental illness, but at the same time, there's that other aspect that's so indicative of who you are as a person.
Yep.
Now, as far as is there any people in your life that you would credit it as being someone who's a really positive, strong influence in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I consider my family, and the people that are trying to get me better are pretty important when it comes to trying to be a positive person back out in the community. I have a lot of community groups that I do, and they're very important to me as well, people. And they have their own disabilities as well, so they can sort of understand what it's like to have a mental illness and a disability. I speak of my disability because before I got the mental illness, I had a learning difficulty when I was younger, and it sort of carried through. So I just learned things at a much slower pace, but I still learn, which is the most important thing. But yeah, my family are very important, especially my mum. When I first got diagnosed with being mentally unwell and had a breakdown at work, my mum was probably the most important person because I could talk to her about anything at the time. And then slowly but surely I started talking to other people in the healthcare sector about my illness and why it's stopping me in terms of doing the things I want to do. And yeah, they've been very important. And yeah, if I didn't have my family, when the illness went down and the people that are helping me, I probably wouldn't be in a position now where I'm trying to move things forward, because I was in a very dark place and a very sad person, and not enjoying the world as most people do. Yeah.
So obviously your mum, which I can even confess myself, my mum was very much someone who was there to help me through some tough times.
Yeah, and I speak of my mum because my mum is sort of someone that I look up to in terms of that she went through a lot of challenges and a lot of difficult times in her life, and she ended up raising a big family and looking after the family, and I see that as inspiration, knowing that the fact that she went through a lot of difficult times and she didn't give up. And that's why I do things to this day, just to keep things going. So don't give up.
That's it. I think that, again, it's like a mirror image of my own experience, is that it's just amazing how someone who, like, I'm not sure if your mother was a single parent or not. Was she a single parent, or did she just...
No, my mum was in relationship.
Oh, okay. Well, even regardless of whether they're single or not, single parent or not, it's just amazing seeing them being able to push through raising kids and making sure they're looked after and then finding the time to actually focus on each child.
And that's why that I do look after my mum, and I do give her things and help her, and I'm very lucky because she's helped me through a lot of dark times. There's still some dark times ahead, but they're going. And like, if I didn't have her like as a role model or someone to lean on, or the family or the people that are looking after me, I probably wouldn't be doing activities or trying to fix myself or trying to improve. Probably just be in that dark place where I wouldn't be helping myself and just spiral out of control and be a person that the community wouldn't think of very highly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week, so I'm just going to ask you to just give a little brief outline of, where you've been, what you've done, and also the diagnosis you were given.
Well, I was born in Singapore. I came from Singapore. And Singapore's life and Aussie life is really two different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
How the government runs and elections and schooling which is a big part of me. Education is so different back home than here. And in school, I used to be very shy, very quiet, and never talked to much people. And most of my feelings and what I think and what I want to say, I do it in writing better. For me to do this now, it has taken me years and years and years to be able to do this. So some people think, that I'm natural and stuff like that, but they do not know about the struggles and difficulties that I had, like opening myself up and talking now about my mental illness. I was often bullied in school and taken advantage of, and I was quite depressed when I was age of can't remember 15, 16 about that, and my dad was wondering why I was very quiet, too quiet, very unusual, unlike my two younger sisters who talked, and took me to a psychiatrist in Singapore, and I was diagnosed with depression, and and I was under medication, and when I came over here, my depression became worse, and now I think I thought it's just depression, major depression, but it's something else, which I'm yet to discuss with my psychiatrist, and she's changing my medications. She's changed quite a few of my medications, and I'm quite easily attached to people, and I'm very emotionally vulnerable as well. Often in the past and now as well, there are people who ignore my emotions, which makes me very mad, annoyed, and very upset and frustrated, because they don't seem to want to take notice of it, and they just want to get things done as fast as they could, and not caring how and not sparing your thoughts and your feelings and stuff like that.
Now, you were talking about certain parts of your life being very limited. And what is it? What would you rate? You said your parents were, very protective of you.
Yeah.
Now, would you rate them, even though they might be slightly overprotective? Do you consider them to be a positive influence in your life to some extent?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, definitely are. But we just don't have the common understanding, I guess, that they should give me the same opportunities as my two younger sisters, and not because that I have medical conditions and mental illness that unsafe for me to be on the wheel.
So,
and my sisters also claim that it's not going to be safe for me to be on the wheel because I'm not my eyesight is not good. I've got a high astigmatism, and I've got short-sightedness, and if I'm depressed and I'm driving, I might get distracted, and in that mood swings and frustration or stress or distressed situation. What am I going to do? Because I can't be in that situation when I'm driving.
Now, I want to talk about, we spoke last week about that you were feeling, in a lot of respects, you were feeling negative and very depressed on a day-to-day basis. Now, as far as getting through that,
there's coping mechanisms, but is there anything in particular that you thoroughly enjoy, something that allows you to sort of step back from the day-to-day drudge, if you want to call it that, and make you feel good for even if it's only a couple of hours?
Yes, it is. I really like to spend time with my husband. But if it wasn't for him, then I would probably wouldn't be here today. I get all the support I can imagine to get from him. It's been over 10 years since I become sick, and he's been every step of the way. He was with me, encouraging me every day, and just beautiful person, which I think he deserves all the credit, really, to keep me at least on the level that I'm able to function from day to day. Yeah.
So, what's some of the things you might do together? As far as, do you just potter around, or?
Yeah, we do the gardening together. Yeah. We swim together during the summer.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, go for a walk. Yeah.
So you would describe him as someone who's been a great balance, equaliser, I suppose you could call it, in your life, as well as being your rock.
Yep.
When times were rough, he was there to support you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so how long have you been married for?
We've been together for 15 years, but we've been married for 11.
Okay.
Yeah, and after I was diagnosed with depression and bipolar, I was completely withdrawn, and I didn't want to go anywhere. It took me 8 years actually to go and see people at Glenridge. I was so ashamed of myself that people will judge me and think of me that I'm crazy. Like my best friend told me, what am I going to do with crazy people over there? So anyway, I think that was the best move I made through all that time. Yeah, and the people are just wonderful, so supportive, and the guys there, who my friend called crazy, are just wonderful people.
But isn't that so true of ignorance when people label someone they've never even spoken to?
Exactly.
They've already judged them before they've even come to even seeing them.
That's right.
They've already decided that they must be crazy.
As soon as you are labelled with the mental illness, you are put into certain cubicle, and that's how people see you.
Well, that's it. I mean, most people, I think that since I became part of NEMI, is the just how normal everyone seems, and it's we do have our ups and downs, but we're not there 24 hours a day, so obviously we don't always see that. But that's besides the point. People aren't this one-dimensional, and to think that people is only, it's just they've got a mental illness, therefore, and that's obviously a very ignorant and it's disrespectful for one thing, but it's also it's stupid. That's about the best way to put it. Right. It's a stupid, ignorant way to look at life, and it's no different to racism or any of that. It's the same ignorance of the unknown. But the good thing that's come out about, since I became part of that experience, and you pointed to it yourself, is having that camaraderie where everyone shares something in common, but at the same time we make ourselves, it's ironic, but we make ourselves feel much normal than how you were saying, I was scared to go there because I thought that people are going to judge me. And you get there, and I'm of the opinion that sometimes some of the people that have gone through the worst in life, and it doesn't necessarily relate to a mental illness. It could be, tragedy, whatever. They seem to be the most on an even keel. It's kind of, it's really bizarre that people who have often been through the worst tend to be the most insightful and sensitive and caring people. And that's exactly what the whole aim of talking to you guys is to show people, we're just normal people who have been through some extraordinary experiences and come out the other side, or at least most of us, to the point where, we may feel have our ups and downs, but for the most part, what we've learned in the past couple of years has taught us to have a little bit of perspective and not to have that self-doubt. So, it's excellent.
I've seen more irrational and completely illogical behaviour outside of psych wards than I've seen inside. The people out there in the street, and all of a sudden,
I think personally, people who have mental illnesses have the inner ability to adapt to different situations, because they've thought to themselves, look, I've been in a hole and now I'm getting myself out of the hole. So then they learn to be that compassionate, caring, more positive person, because they see that, there's better things on the other side, like you're mentioning, and then they focus that towards their goals, their abilities to talk to people and to help people, and that's what makes them better people.
The most depressing things of all is feeling as though you're the only person who's suffering from whatever, whether it be grief at loss of a loved one, and feeling as though the world is just a cruel place that's unforgiving. And it's usually you see these groups that are set up for people, might be Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever group it is. It's by having that camaraderie and that common ground that allows people to step outside themselves and just say, okay, I'm not as different as I thought I was. And that's I think anyone in this world who has gone through a period where they have a lot of self-doubt, it's through their experience with others that is part of the healing. Because doing it on your own behind behind four walls isn't the way to go about it. And so it's you've got to take that step. And then once you do, you just don't know where you'll end up.
Like you were saying before, with the self-doubt, is that you got to keep making them baby steps. And the more you make them baby steps, and the more you push yourself and say to yourself that I actually starting to value myself and give yourself some self-worth, then you start to implement them changes that make you not only a better person but a respected person. And then when you go out in the community and in the public eye, they'll see that the person has gone through a lot of things, didn't give up, and done very well. And I can say personally that I think that the public love to see people fight, and that they don't like seeing people giving up, and they like seeing people always trying to do their best and to be positive, even through circumstances or situations that are not.
Yeah, just what I could say. I what I learned from some people, and and there's a saying, practice makes perfect. If I just feel, like for my parents and my family, if they don't start somewhere and giving me some opportunity and chances to go out by myself and during night, or for a holiday by myself, where are they going to start? What am I going to do when they're not around, when nobody's around? And I asked my dad the question, what happens when you and mom are not around? And he says that I will have to cope by myself. I was saying, I have a mental illness. I've met multiple, as you said now, I have multiple medical conditions and mental illness. If I can't cope now, how am I going to cope later?
far as your experience with, your mental illness, have you ever felt as though people judge you unfairly? Or do you find that you were mentioning the other week about people not realising that you've got something wrong with you? So have you found that when you've talked to people about it, they've been receptive or a bit frightened?
I suppose it depends on who you tell. I think that's a big thing, but I just keep doing things because, like, I know where I'm going on my journey, and I don't care if people judge me or say bad things, because I sometimes judge people as well. So it's just a give and take type thing. I don't take anything personally at all, it doesn't faze me. It probably would have fazed me maybe 12 months ago, but now it's just an everyday thing. People do it, and it's just a part of living in this world. You can't stop it. And it doesn't matter if people judge you, because the only people that can judge are our own selves, and that's it, and just be happy with that.
So it's about acceptance. Yeah,
acceptance is a real big thing in terms of where you want to get to and how you have to get wherever you want to go. Just accepting yourself, and I think the biggest thing is to start giving yourself some self-love and just telling yourself that you can do things. I think affirmations and just continually try and be positive, because like you said, when you said that you know that feeling, I know that feeling as well, but it's not the feeling where you just throw in a towel or say, things are bad and I don't want to do anything. It's them times where you just keep trying, keep doing things, and keep getting to where you want to go, and then people will know that you can play a bad hand well, but also it gives you character, and I think that to an individual who goes through tough times, I think having that character is a big thing, and people will say, "Oh, look how well he's done. He's gone through all these troubles, had a lot of things go wrong, and he still didn't give up, and he got there." And I think that just adds to not only a person's belief, but it just makes a person feel accepted, and then they can go do positive things in the community.
Excellent. Yeah. So acceptance leads to happiness.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and what also leads to happiness is to confront your fears and to love yourself, to go do things, to love yourself, to push through adversity, to love yourself, to accept the help and just to hang in. Because there's a lot of times where people on the nice edge where things are going really bad for them, and their family and their friends and the community trying to support them, and it's tough being in that spot, but you just got to hang in and not give up. And I think that's the message that people should carry when they try and understand with people who have mental illnesses who go through dark times. Is to keep saying to yourself, "I'm not giving up, and I'll continue to fight." And and them type of things, and doing positive things in the community and for yourself. It actually reminds people in the community that they've gone through bad times and they got through it. So it's just respect as well. Not only is acceptance a big thing, respect is a massive thing as well.
All right, Joy, we're just talking about we were talking about stigma, and in your own personal experience, have you ever found that your particular mental condition has caused you to feel alienated from other people?
Yes, I would say, because of my illness, my family keeps me away from my, social life at night and stuff like that. So, where I can hang out with friends at night, that, I feel very isolated in that sense. So, and I get jealous because both my younger sisters, I got 2 younger sisters, and they're allowed to go out at night, and I'm not being allowed to. So, yeah, I feel left out, and I feel there's a stigma there. And the other thing is, stigma is, what am I going to do when my parents and family are not around to help me? And I might get a nervous breakdown. I might lose my sanity and senses. I don't know. I might fall into greater depression, and I might commit suicide. Actually, that happens because we all have to learn to survive and learn how to take care of ourselves. Bit by bit, small step at a time, baby steps, and it's just like swimming. You learn how to swim at a shallow end, the beginners, and then you gauge yourself, and then later they push you to a deeper water and deeper end. But if you have never learned how to learn to swim in the water at the shallow end, you can't be expected to be thrown into the deep end and swim later at the future stage, because you haven't even learned how to swim in the shallow end.
So you were saying about with the stigma, pretty much focusing on your family probably not giving you the same kind of respect and flexibility than your sisters. Yeah. And yet, in the long run, I suppose
I lose out. Yes.
Yeah, you're not, as you said with the swimming analogy. Unless you can't just expect someone to. Yeah, exactly. Just like that, look after themselves if they're not given an opportunity to look after themselves at a much earlier date. Yeah. But as far as like we've talked about your family, but did you find that just in the community in general?
Because I'm obviously Asian culture is totally different from Caucasian culture. There are certain way you have to behave and certain things that you can only say, and there are words that you can't say even if you want to say, and which is really it's not natural, and it's not there are things that you'll be keeping from or hiding from someone, it can be even your loved one.
Just as a slight detour from that, is there anything that you, as far as like where you see your future heading? Now we've talked about how you would like to have a little bit more independence. Yeah. Is there anything that you particularly enjoy doing? Have you got any hobbies or something that you feel as though gives you a bit of, to say this is me and this is what I do and I love it?
Well, I like to hang out with friends. That's one thing, and not just daytime but nighttime. Because in Singapore, we've got nightlife as well, and shops are open at night, and it's some people just don't hang out during the day. They hang out only at night. So I would like to do that. And there are just some movies that you can only watch at night. They don't show it during the daytime.
Yeah. And is there anything else that you would consider to be, even if you don't get to do it a lot now, is there anything you'd love to do?
I hope and wish that I can be a musician, a violinist. My violin is right now not in playable mode, but I hope to save up some money and buy a good violin, and maybe I can, I don't have much qualification. I've only got until grade 3, but I guess I still can teach people how to play the violin if it's just a simple songs or something.
Yeah, there's no problem with doing that.
Yeah.
So as far as like with playing the violin, was that something you started doing when you were a child, or?
No, I started when I was secondary 1, which would be equivalent to grade 7 here.
Oh, okay. So you would have been about 12, 13 around the time?
Yes. Yeah, something that I really loved. I really loved playing the violin more than piano.
So definitely it's something that you would not only love to do again, but you consider to be something that fills you with happiness.
Yes.
And
yes.
A sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
A recent relationship that you've got into, and
a couple of things make me nervous about it. One, she's a lot younger than I am, 30. That's one point.
Yeah.
2, she says she understands a little bit about what goes on inside my head, but I want to get her to a psychiatrist and sit down and okay. Because there's no point in not being honest with her. I refer to DSM.
What was that, sorry?
DSM.
Oh, yes.
And said, okay, read that. And she's got sort of an intellectual understanding, but that's about the lunatic. Okay, fair enough. We go sailing. Nice lady to be around. Just go with the flow. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
So you pretty much feel as though you'd like her to know exactly what she's getting herself into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So because I'm getting the impression that in order for you to feel comfortable and feel like you can trust her, she needs to know that. Yeah, that this is the complete package, and that, well,
What's the point instead of saying, okay, let's go sailing, and I go, yeah, phase out, or I'm going to meet her somewhere, and I'm not there, because I've gone somewhere else, or whatever. But yeah, we'll just go with the flow.
So, would you feel? I mean, if this was to, become a long-term relationship, do you feel as though this would be good for you, even just helping you sort of come out of your shell a little bit, or how would you associate the relationship as far as what you hope to get out of it?
A friend.
A friend? Well, that's good. Yeah.
I guess I miss the companionship of the first 10 years of the marriage.
Yeah. And do you get the feeling that you've got to a point now where there's no turning back. You're at the stage you are in life right now, and do you feel as though you're being given a second chance in a lot of ways?
I'm still alive.
Yeah.
That's a second chance.
Yeah.
More. But I mean, I'm 56. She's 30.
Yeah. It is it's a bit of a gap, but
damn big gap.
But at the same time,
very
there's she is a mature woman. It sounds young, but 30's mature. And I don't think there should be any age barriers there. If it works, it works. Like you said, if it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But
she looks a lot younger than 30. We were walking we went to a restaurant last night, walked in, and the maitre d' already said, and my daughter was with us. And, table for three for yourself and your daughter's served. Yeah.
I'm guessing this is they're going to assume that your dad. Well, look, that's another barrier to get past. I think that it's not uncommon for couples that are have got a bit of a gap between them for people to assume, but I don't think there's any rule that says you can't.
Well,
so
I also found that my daughter had taken a look about the history of the waterfront into waterfront here in Melbourne. And they didn't bring it in compulsory retirement until 1988, age 65. There was an old guy, old Mick, he was infants or famous. In 1982, he retired at 102. Right? He died at 106. I went to his funeral. He's his second wife, 48 years old. 18 years. She's had 3 kids. Well, George took that in to Vanessa. I'm sure that's. So there seems to be a bit of coercion there between the girls.
But even that, there's an even bigger gap.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for anyone that it's not conventional.
Definitely not conventional.
No.
Definitely not conventional.
But what is really?
Can I just say that there's absolutely no shame at all. Like, if anything, I'm not ready either.
Yeah.
I'm still working on myself, building myself, learning to even talk to people again. For a long time, I lost a lot of that confidence and looking people in the eye and, smiling at them and, just learning about that type of thing. When I was with my friends for a long period of time, I didn't even have the self-esteem at that time. I had very low confidence, and now I'm just starting to. Now I'm obviously a late bloomer. I'm just starting to build my confidence now, and in the future, I definitely want to find someone and make me happy. And just everyone around me, family, all my old friends that I haven't seen, everyone wanting the same as well. And I don't actually think if you haven't found the person yet, there's no shame in that. I don't know why men they take it personally on themselves by making themselves feel bad because they haven't found someone. It's a thing that takes time, if it was easy, everyone would be happy.
Exactly.
And it's not easy.
No. I
actually like being forward with people, and I'm not ashamed of who I am, and I'm getting more comfortable in my own skin as well. So I'm actually, it makes me feel better that I can actually get it out instead of holding it in, because if you hold it in, it just eats you up. Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant, because it's so true. I consider myself to be a late bloomer.
Yep.
I don't really know what to blame most, whether it was my self-preservation, saying, I don't want to get too close to someone, I'll get hurt, or whether I wasn't putting myself out there, or, there's a myriad of reasons I could come up with, but then there's also the fact that not everyone, you know what I mean? Like, we can't just expect to walk out the door and meet the love of our life.
Of course, but the way you go about things is that you got to somehow or another, try and not self-doubt so much, and you gotta love yourself even through bad times, and keep building your confidence up, and then eventually you be able to sit down with someone and tell them that that you're interested, or that you want to take things further, or even go out on a date. They're the type of things that most people who don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend are trying to do, because everyone wants to be happy.
And everyone likes to feel that there's someone out there. I think it's only natural to want to have a relationship with someone, and an intimate one. You can have all the friends in the world. It doesn't make up for the fact that you haven't got your significant other, and it's very. I think even oftentimes that's probably one of the root causes of depression, is feeling alone.
I think one of the reasons is because some people think that relationship is everything.
And that's
and sometimes it's not, because you got to prioritize things, and then when you can get good at other things, then you start adding that type of thing in, and then you build on it from there. And that's how good relationships go the distance.
I think that's another thing that's exactly spot on, is putting too much significance on happiness equals, or relationship equals happiness. In other words, if I haven't got it, I'm not complete. And that's also there's two extremes. There's actual genuine, that genuine feeling of wanting to be with someone, and then there's the irrational fear that by not being in a relationship, you're somehow deprived of life, kind of thing.
And for me, it's all about the learning, because I'm actually learning things in between, like as I go forward, and like that's going to help me get better at talking to people, and start believing more in myself, and then of course, once you keep doing things and believing in yourself, you start to grow as a person, and not only do you grow as a person, you grow with confidence, and then you can talk to anyone, and you feel great, not only inside, but on the outside as well. I think a lot of people when they don't feel good on the inside, they're wondering why they can't get a girlfriend, because they're letting their feelings get control of them, like they're not thinking good and that. But when you love yourself on the inside and the outside, it actually reflects, and people can see it. And I think that's probably one of the most attractive things that you could probably put on the table, is that people can see you glow, and I think that's a great thing. And that's why a lot of people to this day and age work very hard to get to where they want to go, whether it be professionally, in relationships, or whatever they want to do. It's all about hard work. And if all relationships were easy, everyone would have a girlfriend, and no one would be complaining about not having a missus or something like that.
Well, that's another thing.
And for other people out there that are virgins, and like myself, I'm very proud. I'm not ashamed of it, and actually, it's not a bad thing. It's actually quite a good thing, because this means you're not ready yet.
No, and I think that's a true test of the kind of person you are, is to hold out, because I think that a lot of people that do it, especially at a very young age, they realise they did it without any kind of love involved. It was just
and then it loses all meaning.
Well,
it does. And relationships are built on meaning and love and all the good things.
Yeah, if sex is just all you're after, God, I think anyone could do it. But the problem is that there's dignity involved.
You're not gonna have that fulfillment that you're looking for.
And that's it. Most people, 9 times out of 10, most people will tell you that their first experience, if it was, with someone they didn't particularly really like, they'll say it was horrible. And that will be their first experience for the rest of their lives. And I'm not saying that your first experience is going to be super smooth, but at the same time, I think it'll
be worth it.
Well, it used to be something very, or I'm sure it is in some circles, but it used, virginity is actually something to be, it's a noble thing. If you're the kind of person that would rather have a meaningful relationship before you go in that direction, then I think that's, people are going to go, wow. And anyone that says, oh, you're an idiot, you should be out there enjoying your life, well, that's for them to just,
I think it's most important that you listen to your own self.
Exactly. Never.
And don't listen to the critics, because you can shoot arrows and arrows can come back, but if you just ignore, then, it makes it easier.
Yeah, always stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
Never change just because society says so.
Yeah.
And especially in that regard, I think that it's definitely something that I consider to be a very noble thing.
I think it's noble myself, because a lot of people have said to me through the ups and downs and that type of thing, they're like saying, but why haven't you got one? Yeah, and I tell them that I'm not ready yet.
No.
Yeah, and it's on my terms, not on else's.
No, and that's it. You've only got one life, and some may argue, well, that's even more reason why you should be out, gallivanting around and being a hussy. But the reality.
Or racehorse.
But the reality is that at the end of the day, you have to be the one that looks yourself in the mirror and says, I'm happy with who I am.
Yeah, of course. But as soon as you feel happiness inside, then it manifests in a positive way.
It's a flowing effect.
Yeah.
People are not. You're not going to meet your soulmate by picking up at bars or at a pub or something.
Yeah.
It's you can pick up maybe, but that's about it. And the thing is that just by being you in your everyday life, that's it. You don't know how you're going to meet someone.
Yeah.
It could be something mundane, like
and I think that's the thrill of the chase, really.
But that's it. If you keep chasing with the idea that if I do this, I'm going to meet someone, then that's not a good idea.
Yeah. So maybe it's more the other way around, where it's that the more you love yourself, the better things come your way.
Exactly. I mean, some people might call it karma. Being a good person and sharing that with others in your everyday life. Someone's going to take notice of that, and one day they might say, "Oh, did you want to catch up for a coffee?" Or you might say,
and it could just lead to something small that you can build on that.
Exactly.
Yep.
So there's for everyone that's out there trying, they're just setting themselves up for failure, because you can't make something like that happen. And
I think that most important thing is that you can't enforce anything either, because that just shows that's just showing that you're not ready, and it's not a good thing.
No.
Right.
Okay, David. I just wanted to ask you about your mental health issues, and just give us an idea of how long ago you were diagnosed and what you were diagnosed with.
A bit of a question, a bit of a hard question, really. If I'm honest with myself, I think I've been suffering for much of my life without being diagnosed. I can remember times sort of as early as back as being 7 or 8 years old and sort of having thoughts of suicide and harming myself, and into my teens definitely suicidal for a lot of the time, and it wasn't until I was about 25 that I was, I suppose, brave enough to seek assistance. Ultimately, it sort of started with a diagnosis of just major depression. I've had a diagnosis of bipolar or manic depressive, but I don't know, I just put it down to mental health difficulties, I guess. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've lost people in my life, of incidents that have sparked off periods of really deep depression, and a lot of hard times, I guess, that it took me a long time to be honest enough with myself to admit that, yeah, look, I've got some other issues going on here that need to be checked out, to go to the doctor and say, look, I think I've got a problem.
As far as being diagnosed, between that time and now, do you still have moments where you feel suicidal thoughts or anything like that, or do you feel that you've come a long way now?
I've actually come a long way especially the last couple of years. It took a long time, even after being diagnosed. I sort of had a major upset in my life, and sort of things went really downhill for about 3 years, and I'm still sort of recovering from that, I think, but I'm no longer sort of thinking of hurting myself or suicide. I guess I've still got a problem with being depressed and not adjusting well in society. I sort of cut myself off from my job, all my friends, loved ones, everyone. Just cut myself off from everyone and everything, and shut myself off at home for years.
Was the diagnosis depression?
Initially, it was depression. Manic or bipolar was chucked in there for a while, but
so what would you categorise as being the main? I know myself, it's very hard for people to exactly know what's going on there. We're all so unique. So, would you say to people if they asked, "Oh, I suffer from clinical depression or bipolar"?
I think honestly, I don't really know. Sometimes I'd say bipolar, other times I'd say depression. I'm sorry, not giving a very definite answer there, but
it's what fits.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how I feel at the moment.
Exactly.
Or I'm having the mood swings, let's say it's, bipolar.
Yep.
But at the same time, it sounds like you've really come a long way, even if it's been a journey from 3 years is a long time, but at the same time, it can be like,
It's like a light switch going off, isn't it? It's going from thinking that badly about yourself and wanting to, I don't know, I've come to a distinction that it's a difference between not wanting to live and wanting to die. I don't think I ever wanted to die, I just didn't want to live.
Yeah, life posed it was such a, that kind of
absolutely.
You can't really describe it, and but at the same time, you didn't want to just throw it all away.
There was something that stopped me from ever taking that step, and I'm really glad for that now.
Exactly.
And I haven't felt that way in a couple of years. I've had my down spots, but I've never felt that bad again, and I never want to again. I'm terrified of feeling that bad again.
So the medication you are on now, could you tell us a little bit about that?
I've actually tried a few different medications over my time, but at the moment I'm on Lexapro, which is probably the most beneficial medication I've had with the least side effects. In the past, I found that another medication I was taking, Lexapro, I was on huge doses, and I was not Lexapro. I forgot the name of the other one. Really drowsy and just on to sleep 23 out of every 24 hours. No.
It was depriving you of living.
Yeah, I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to sleep all day, every day. It was really any small wonder that I didn't want to get out of the house. But now I find that the Lexapro gives me that sort of sense of buoyancy, that I'm not out there in the deep dark water, sort of bobbing, sort of drowning. I feel like I've got a life preserver at least. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
We've already covered all, as far as the mental health issues. Now, I know that you're actually, already in a relationship, and you did comment on how much of a support he is in your life. Now, if we were to go back into your younger years, would you say that that your mental health issues have impacted on relationships or your ability to sustain them?
I don't think so, actually, because I never had a problem as a young person. It only started really after I injured myself about 12 years ago. And after the injury, I wasn't able to return to work, so I was forced to stay home, and suddenly I was so isolated and not able to do anything, and I just broke down completely.
I just wanted to ask you about this injury. What exactly happened?
I injured myself at work, and by lifting a heavy object and twisting around with it, trying to put it on a bench, and I injured my spine and my left knee, which I subsequently had an operation on both of them, and since then I've been home. Can't work anymore. Yeah.
And so the depression started.
Yeah, and depression started from there. Yeah. At first, I just thought, well, I'll be going home to work, if I heal and stuff like that. But I wasn't up to it. Our doctor didn't want to send me back to work, and eventually also the employee just refused to give me lighter duties and stuff like that. So, it was very depressing, very depressing.
Now, were you in a relationship at that time?
Yes, I actually was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was in a relationship with my current husband, and I thought, well, after I really started to go crazy, I thought he will leave me, because I changed so much, but I was very wrong. He was such a support, just till now, I rely on him all the time, on everything, and he supports me, but to no end, really. He retired from his work just recently, just to look after me, so really I'm so grateful for that.
So it sounds like he's a very compassionate man, and I think it's just terrific that he's been there, because I think that I'll just tell you quickly, my grandfather, he might not have suffered from depression as far as I'm concerned, but he did sustain a very serious injury, and that did impact his life dramatically. And I think that if he didn't have my nana around, he may well have slipped too. And even though you've described that this was the sort of the catalyst as far as your depression, I think the silver lining is that you still had that support there.
Yeah.
As far as relationships are concerned, have you been in many, or have you?
I've not been in actual relationship, as in a boy-girl relationship, because my family background and stuff like that, and I find it hard to trust people as well. Can be quite paranoid and stubborn at times, but I mean, strong boy-girl relationship is based on trust, friendship, love, and it's a commitment as well. And just with my family and friends that I got, sometimes they let me down, and I can't. It loses my trust, because when someone betrays you, especially I've got friends who betrayed me before. Even my sister, sometimes they betray me, and it makes me very hard to trust. Let's say if I were to go into a boy-girl relationship, I find it hard to trust my boyfriend, because and might be hard for my boyfriend to accept me, and I got really some strange habits, and I'm not even I talked it with my parents, and my dad said I don't think anyone will actually have a relationship with you and live with you because of certain habits that I have at home. So I don't know how is that, but anyway, I mean, if I can't hang out at night, how else am I going to find a relationship? Because that's where boys and girls go out at night and hang out together. So and with my mental illness, I'm not sure if my boyfriend will accept me too, because not everyone is like Kaveta's husband, understanding and patient and supports, not there's no one like him, there's not many around. There are very few around who are like that. Often they will look at you and your appearance, and they get to initially maybe they like you, but if they know you more and more, and they do, and if it was going to be a real serious relationship where you two both live together, and I've seen a lot. I've got relatives who they've been in a relationship for many years, and they break up after that. Either separate and divorce after that, or something like that, which is it's very sad. It can be quite emotional for me, and I'm a very emotional person as well. I'm very vulnerable, and I get upset and depressed and frustrated very easily. So it's a good thing that I'm not in a relationship, because it can affect me, down the road. What happens if the relationship goes all right, and then we get married, and then 14 years down the drain, your husband says, look, that's it, that's the end of the thing. It's not like Kaveta, been years and years and still together. Not every couples are like that. So it's hard.
So obviously trust is a big
issue.
factor.
Yes.
And, I think you pointed it out brilliantly. Is unless you can trust someone and accept you for who you are, you're not even going to bother. Because it's just, to you, it's like you're looking into the future, and you do not want to be left in a position where you feel like you've been left high and dry, kind of.
Yes. So, and based on my experience with my relatives, they've gone through a long relationship, and after that they break it off. It's very, very emotional for the girl's side. On the girl's side, I remember when the husband broke off, it was many years she was being married, and after breaking off, she was very emotional. She broke down, and she was totally, depressed. I don't know whether she's seen a doctor for that, but obviously it was a very difficult time for her, because they've been married for years and years and years. Since when I was over in Singapore, they got married, and it's been years and years and years, more than a decade, I would say. And it's very sad that and she had to sell the house, the husband wasn't there anymore, and she did, think of how to sell the house and get all that sorted out. It's very tired and very, very tiring, very stressful, distressed, and it's just something you don't want to go through that. Like, after seeing people experiencing that, like I'm kind of undecided, because you don't want to go through that after.
So you're sort of torn between what you would like and what you fear at the same time. So I mean, it would take a special kind of person.
Yes.
Someone,
so like Kaveta's husband, someone.
But, there's also the possibility that you could meet someone that might have some mental issues themselves. I think I'm not saying that always has to be the way. But
and I think the other thing is also, someone who not only accepts me but accepts my parents and relatives, because that's a big part. And because coming from my Asian background, and especially for the very old traditional, like my grandparents, like it will have to be a Chinese, it will have to be a Hainanese, or our dialects Hainanese. So it will have to be a Hainanese or a and my grandparents will have to approve to it. If they don't approve it, you can't just say I'm going to get married, which just makes much more difficult in that sense, more issues, and and the pressure is getting on to me too, because my older cousins, they've all been married, so I've got one more cousin that's not married yet, and after her it's me. So the pressure is getting there very soon, that they'll be asking, when are you going to get married, where's your boyfriend, and all these type of questions will start coming up soon, which is not too far away, because I remember I got one first cousin, she was already asking me, oh, are you in love with someone, and when are you getting married, and these kind of things, it comes up. So yeah, I got a hard time, I think.
Scary.
Yeah, scary. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the traditional element, and I think that's probably another factor. The pieces just have to fit.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Because it's a different dynamic. Traditional parents, traditional background.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily that you don't like that.
Yeah.
It's obviously that's a part of who you are as a person.
Yes.
And so it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now you've pretty much explained to me that this can be. It's more than just meeting someone. It's about will they fit into the.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the picture. Yes. Yeah. And in the past, what my parents and grandparents tell me is that they have been matchmade. The parents have matched. They have to. How the wife and the husband get together is by matchmaking. So and now they don't do that anymore. But the grandparents or the parents will have to agree to the marriage, which is a very, very difficult task. It's a very, very difficult.
It's easy for me because I grew up in a different background. Even though I still think that family is important when you're factoring in someone in your relationship, it just adds that little extra to it when there's that tradition that's been in your family for so long.
Exactly, and so my parents have told me before too, if although it's a matchmaking, and if you're not happy, even if any of the sides are not happy, they still have to marry, and but marriage is really about love and commitment, and just the passion you have for that the other opposite sex. If you are matchmake and if it doesn't turn out well, it's a commitment that you're going to make for the rest of your life.
It's noble that you think that way, because I think it's very important that the person you decide to be with
is someone you love deeply.
Not only that you love, but someone that's going to fit within the dynamic of your family and everything.
Which is not going to be an easy thing, because my family is a very complicated thing, the whole thing. So.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much for watching this documentary. I hope you learned a lot more about mental illness. And yes, it is a very complex type of thing to understand. So this is the reason why I did actually do this documentary for you, the viewer, to understand more about what we suffer. I'm pretty sure actually someone who has a mental illness, like a loved one or a friend or even a relative. So me and Shane are going to have a little discussion about what we actually learned out of this. When I was first starting this documentary, I was going to do the interviews myself. And then I said to myself, well, I think Shane would be a better person to do these interviews, because he seems to be more forward than I am. You might think that I am now, but I thought it would be a good idea for you to do them instead, because I thought sometimes having me in the background looking at these interviews would be much easier for me to understand. So how did you understand when you were actually interviewing these people?
Yeah, well, like I said before, I was probably, one part of me was a little apprehensive about doing it. But what I found really amazing was that once I sat down, they said, all right, we're rolling, I actually found I was quite comfortable. Yeah. And it was bizarre, because I thought to myself that I wasn't going to feel that way. And when I started talking to people and just introducing myself and just, what I would like to hear from them, I found that it flowed pretty good.
Yeah, it did flow pretty good.
Yeah, so, I mean, each person's a little bit different. Some people are a bit more, open and receptive.
Yes.
Other people, you might need to coax it out of them a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the whole, the experience for me was pretty enlightening, and but I mean, what I got from the whole experience was also good for my own self-esteem.
Yes, that's one of the reasons a number of reasons why I wanted to do this documentary, to learn from others. And when I was doing what we called, but we did
the mindful moods.
We met other people, and the thing is, it wasn't just like people from our age. It was more the older generations, or people who are a little bit older than us had mental illness, but we all did support each other. In this.
Yeah, exactly. That was one thing I wanted to point out, is that whether we intend to or not, we tend to focus our issues on our peer group. Meaning, if I'm, let's say, 30, I think between 25, 35, or even 30 to 40, and we sort of neglect to acknowledge, should I say, that a lot of people have suffered from mental health issues well into their twilight years, I suppose you could call it. And so when me and Lee did the Mindful Moods group, I was the youngest, and so I would have been, 34 or something?
Like that.
Yeah. And I don't know how the old, I wasn't just going to say, how old are you? But I'd guess probably 70s or something. Do you reckon 70s or late 60s?
Yeah, it was 70s.
And it was actually a husband and
wife team, yeah.
And,
very interesting.
Yeah, and they, look, to be honest with you, they seemed pretty good. They seemed fine to me, but when we actually spoke, which was another good thing about this group, we were very communicative with each other.
Yeah.
And Nina, who was doing the group, she actually pointed out, "Wow, it was great. I really appreciate everyone being so honest."
No.
But when you actually heard what they had to say, they're like, even to this day, they still suffer from anxiety, or they have depression, or all these things. And this is precisely why Lee wanted to make this documentary, is to show that people, from how widespread, I suppose, to, putting aside the actual mental illnesses that we all know about, and depression, sort of people go, depression, that's, it's like that's the soft version of having a mental illness. And it's not. I mean, someone who suffers from clinical depression, suicide, or total disintegration of their life. And we had a woman come in and speak about that.
Yes, she was very interesting to talk to and to learn. I never really spoke to her, because she was just very interesting to listen to. I thought she was fantastic, because you think that you have problems yourself. This woman really had problems.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much about her, but they were really, really, really bad.
Yeah. Disintegration of family. Yeah. Everything.
Her family virtually disowned her. She tended to commit suicide, but she never had suicide thoughts when she did it, which was very interesting. And you probably don't know that. Some people, it's just a spur of the moment and they do it.
Yep.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And yet this woman turned her life around.
Exactly.
There was still a few pieces to pick up, but she had, totally done a U-turn and gone back to being a, productive member of society.
And also, I liked how she actually was very open about her mental illness. And that's why I wanted to put this on to tape and show this. We are open to tell you, because a long time ago, even say 10 years, people were very closed about their mental illness.
Yeah. They don't want to, they feared that if they told a co-worker or something, that they'll think poorly of them. And the irony is that probably, if they had, they probably would have found out that their co-worker has suffered from something like that. But yeah, there was a definite. Me and Lee were actually talking the other day about education and people wanting to, to get into a course or something like that. And the stigma, I was mentioning that the stigma of mental illness is pretty much, it's accepted nowadays,
It is very...
so you can actually say to them, I would like to do part-time instead of full-time because I don't think I'm capable at the moment, or that, I'm still undergoing treatment or something. And they're like, whatever, that's good.
Yeah.
But, go back to the 60s or something. And
it's just, like I said, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, even 10 years ago, but you know what I mean? It's like, if I was to... talk to my mother, bringing up children around that era, everything was different.
Yeah. Well, like in the 60s, the type of people like us ourselves would have been committed to our mental institution.
And that's the difference. Is it's like I know this is going slightly in a different direction, but incarceration, they realise that the best approach is to actually give them hope, not treat them like dirt, and then they come out with hating society. And I suppose it's a similar shift in the way they treat mental disorders. Is that yes, there's the medication, so that used to be a bit of a problem. They used to just dope them up to the point where they would just couldn't do anything, and now they realise is that therapy is pretty much hard, both hand in hand. But I think getting back to with the documentary is that this wasn't just about answering questions that we might have asked of people, but also a bit of self-discovery, I suppose.
Yes,
because
Well, like I probably didn't say. When I did these interviews, I wanted people to have their own say. I didn't coach them, or they said, "I think you must say something," or something like that. I gave this I'm not an ultimatum, but I said that if you're uncomfortable and you don't want to do it, just leave. Just leave. Not one of these interviewers actually left, which is I'm very happy that they were able to come to these sessions to talk to Shane, and we learnt about what their problem was and how they deal with it and all that sort of stuff. Now, I think we should wrap it up. And I hope you enjoyed what me and Shane created, and I hope that maybe I'd like to do more about this. So thank you very much.
Perhaps we'll see you again another time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.